जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी। गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी। गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी। गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी। यशोदनंदन व्रज जन रंजन। यशोदनंदन व्रज जन रंजन। यशोदनंदन व्रज जन रंजन। यशोदनंदन व्रज जन रंजन। यमुना तेरा वनचारी। तेरा वनचारी। यमुना तेरा वनचारी। तेरा वनचारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी। गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी। यशोदनंदन व्रज जन रंजन। यशोदनंदन व्रज जन रंजन। यशोदनंदन व्रज जन रंजन। यमुना तेरा वनचारी। यमुना तेरा वनचारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे। हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे। हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे। हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे। हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। जय प्रभुपादा जय प्रभुपादा जय प्रभुपादा शिल प्रभुपादा। प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद। प्रभुपाद जय जय प्रभुपाद। Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrikacharya Ashtotara Shata Shri Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrikacharya Ashtotara Shata Shri Srimad Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur Ki प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरी गोवर्धन की वृंदावन धाम मथुरा धाम की नवद्वीप मायापुर धाम की जगन्नाथपुरी क्षेत्र धाम की गंगामाई यमुना माई की तुलसी देवी भक्ति देवी की सामवेद भक्त वृंद की all glory to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories, all glories, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you. So, thank you all for assembling for today's Srimad Bhagavatam class. Before I start speaking, I would like to get the blessings of all the assembled Vaishnavas here, so that whatever I may speak may be in the line of Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra, and can help us all in our progressive path to going back home, back to Godhead. So, today we'll be reading from the fourth canto, fourth chapter, verses 5, 6, and 7. And the name of this chapter is, what's the name of this chapter? Talks between? No, Lord Shiva and Satī. That was the previous chapter. Now we're on the chapter where Lord Shiva speaks with his wife Satī or Parvati. And yeah, so let's see. 1 second. Guruji, can you like zoom in a little bit more and put the camera down a little bit? Perfect. Perfect. Thank you. A little zoom out, a little bit. Wait, hold on. That's it. That's good. Perfect. Thank you. Because there's so much stuff in the back. So okay. Because there's 3 verses, we'll chant the first one together, and then I'll just chant the second and third one. Tad-upaśrutya nabhasi, tad-upaśrutya nabhasi, khe-carāṇāṁ prajalpatām, khe-carāṇāṁ prajalpatām, Satī dākṣāyaṇī devī, Satī dākṣāyaṇī devī, pitṛ-yajña-mahotsavam, pitṛ-yajña-mahotsavam, tad-upaśrutya nabhasi, khe-carāṇāṁ prajalpatām, Satī dākṣāyaṇī devī, pitṛ-yajña-mahotsavam. Please repeat. Tad-upaśrutya nabhasi, khe-carāṇāṁ prajalpatām, Satī dākṣāyaṇī devī, pitṛ-yajña-mahotsavam. Tad-upaśrutya nabhasi, khe-carāṇāṁ prajalpatām, Satī dākṣāyaṇī devī, pitṛ-yajña-mahotsavam. Tad-upaśrutya nabhasi, khe-carāṇāṁ prajalpatām, dākṣāyaṇī devī, pitṛ-yajña-mahotsavam. तदुपाश्रित्य नभसि khe-carāṇāṁ prajalpatām Satī dākṣāyaṇī devī pitṛ-yajña-mahotsavam vrajantīḥ sarvato digbhya upadeva-vara-striyaḥ vimāna-yānāḥ sa-preṣṭhā niṣka-kaṇṭhīḥ suvāsasaḥ vrajantīḥ sarvato digbhya upadeva-vara-striyaḥ vimāna-yānāḥ sa-preṣṭhā niṣka-kaṇṭhīḥ suvāsasaḥ dṛṣṭvā sva-nilayāabhyāśe lola-akṣīr mṛṣṭa-kuṇḍalāḥ patiṁ bhūta-patiṁ devam autsukyād abhyabhāṣata dṛṣṭvā sva-nilayāabhyāśe lola-akṣīr mṛṣṭa-kuṇḍalāḥ patiṁ bhūta-patiṁ devam autsukyād abhyabhāṣata. Word for word. Tat, then. Upaśrutya, hearing. Nabhasi, in the sky. Khe-carāṇāṁ, of those who were flying in the air. The Gandharvas. Prajalpatām, the conversation. Satī, Satī, dākṣāyaṇī, the daughter of Daksha. Devī, the wife of Shiva. pitṛ-yajña-mahā-utsavam, the great festival of sacrifice performed by her father. Vrajantīḥ, we're going. Sarvataha, from all. Digbhya, directions. Upadeva-vara-striyaḥ, the beautiful wives of the demigods. Vimāna-yānāḥ, flying in their airplanes. Sa-preṣṭhā, along with their husbands. Niṣka-kaṇṭhīḥ, having nice necklaces with lockets. Suvāsasaḥ, dressed in fine clothing. dṛṣṭvā, seeing. sva-nilaya-abhyāśe, near her residence. Lola-akṣīḥ, having beautiful glittering eyes. mṛṣṭa-kuṇḍalāḥ, nice earrings. Patim, her husband. Bhūta-patim, the master of the bhutas. Devam, the demigod. Autsukyād, from great anxiety. Abhyabhāṣata, she spoke. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The chaste lady Satī, the daughter of Daksha, heard the heavenly denizens flying in the sky, conversing about the great sacrifice being performed by her father. When she saw that from all directions the beautiful wives of the heavenly denizens, their eyes very beautifully glittering, were near her residence and were going to the sacrifice, dressed in fine clothing and ornamented with earrings and necklaces with lockets, she approached her husband, the master of the bhutas, in great anxiety and spoke as follows. Purport. It appears that the residence of Lord Shiva was not on this planet, but somewhere in outer space. Otherwise, how could Satī have seen the airplanes coming from different directions towards this planet and heard the passengers talking about the great sacrifice being performed by Daksha? Satī is described here as dākṣāyaṇī because she was a daughter of Daksha. The mention of upadeva-vara refers to inferior demigods like the Gandharvas, Kinnaras, and Uragas, who are not exactly demigods, but between the demigods and human beings. They were also coming in planes. The word sva-nilayābhyāśe indicates that they were passing right near her residential quarters. The dress and bodily features of the wives of the heavenly denizens are very nicely described here. Their eyes moved, the earrings and other ornaments glittered and glared. The dresses were the nicest possible, and all of them had special lockets on their necklaces. Each woman was accompanied by her husband. Thus, they looked so beautiful that Satī, dākṣāyaṇī, was impelled to dress similarly and go to the sacrifice with her husband. That is the natural inclination of a woman. Om ajñānatimirandhasya jnānāñjana-śalakaya chakṣurunmīlitam yena tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurung Vaishnavangscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathaṃ Vitāṃ Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padang Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhaṃ Vitaṃscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubheva cha Patitanang Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. The chaste lady Satī, the daughter of Daksha, heard the heavenly denizens flying in the sky, conversing about the great sacrifice being performed by her father. When she saw that from all directions, the beautiful wives of the heavenly denizens, their eyes very beautifully glittering, were near her residence and were going to the sacrifice, dressed in fine clothing and ornamented with earrings and necklaces with lockets, she approached her husband, the master of the bhutas, in great anxiety and spoke as follows, which we'll find out tomorrow. So anyway, thank you all for assembling once again. Before I start speaking, please give me your blessings so you can all have a wonderful Bhagavatam class with plenty of Krishna Katha. So Srimad Bhagavatam is full of descriptions of various kinds of pastimes, some fascinating, some teach us lessons, and some just tell different kinds of stories. But when we hear such descriptions in the Bhagavatam, where devotees are left wondering why there is so much graphic descriptions of materialistic things that are going on in the world of Srimad Bhagavatam. Sometimes, and we've seen in the 5th canto, there's a description of Purva-chitti, where the king Agnidhara was sitting and meditating, and then Purva-chitti came and distracted him. And then there's also descriptions in other pastimes where the bodily features of women are very explicitly described. And sometimes also we have examples of demigods enjoying their pastimes with various heavenly society girls called apsaras, and all such kinds of things. Now, why are they described in the Bhagavatam, one may wonder. And on the other side, a lot of people might be disturbed by such pastimes because their mind and their hearts are not yet purified. And people may also wonder, we're coming to a Bhagavatam class to listen about God, to speak about God, and we're talking about these generic pastimes, such from the mundane world. How could that be? Why are we participating in such non-transcendental descriptions? But the thing is, Bhagavatam, all these descriptions in the Bhagavatam given by Srila Vyasadeva, by Shukdev Goswami, they're all there for a purpose. There's a great purpose in each of these narrations that are given in the Srimad Bhagavatam. It's not just haphazardly put in there just for fun, just to fill up the pages and get to a quota of 18,000 verses to fulfill the Purana. No, it's because scriptures like Srimad Bhagavatam, they act as compasses of knowledge for the living entities to get out of this world. And if one studies the Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita and various other scriptures, then listening to all these pastimes, these pastimes, they act as needles to take out the thorns of material attachment and desires. We've seen a practical example in our lives when we're walking bare feet in Vrindavan, for example, or in a forest, and we have a thorn that gets pricked in our foot. So sometimes it goes so deep into our feet or foot or wherever that it's hard to take it out with just your hands. You need to go to a doctor, or you need to go back home and take a needle and take it out. So same way, Srimad Bhagavatam acts as that needle that takes out the thorn of material conditioned life and helps us remove all these unnecessary material desires and attachments that we have, anarthas, things that are not needed. And this is why the Srimad Bhagavatam is not different from Krishna, because Krishna, in the form of his holy name, he does the same exact thing. He purifies our heart through so many different ways. Another example we have in the Mahabharata is where I think it's the Balakanda in the very beginning, where Bhima, he ingests poison that was administered by Duryodhan. It was layered in between a cake and then it was fed to him. And because Bhima, known as Vrikodhara, who could perform Herculean tasks, aka eating a lot, he ingested this huge amounts of poison, and in a few hours, it didn't affect him immediately, but in a few hours, he could feel it and he just passed out. And Duryodhan and his brothers, they pushed him into the river. Now, eventually, because of the flow of the water, Bhima ended up in the land of the Nagas. And the Nagas, because they're snakes, they started to bite Bhima because they were worried about who is this big person trying to occupy our territory. So they started biting him in various places. And we all know that snakes have poison. So the poison of the snakes neutralized the poison that was administered in the form of the cake by Duryodhan, and Bhima recovered. Of course, the Nagas also gave him celestial ambrosia at the end, and that helped Bhima gain the strength that he needed to fight later on in his life. And that's the strength he got to, where it says in the Mahabharata that his strength was equal to that of 10,000 elephants. It's because of the celestial ambrosia that he got that strength. So like this, the Bhagavatam is that so to say poison that purifies the material poison in our hearts, in our minds, and takes us away from this material vibrations in the material world. And all the poisonous effects that are there that we're constantly receiving in the form of vibrations, impressions, interactions, all these things, the Bhagavatam, with the dose of daily Bhagavatam, Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya, either by listening to the Bhagavatam or serving a person Bhagavata, all these poisons of the material world and material evils are neutralized. In the same way, there's also, Prabhupada also talks about the Ajamil Upakhya, where he says that, well, let me describe the pastime real quick, where Ajamil is a Brahmana boy, a very good Brahmana boy, who's going through the forest to fetch flowers for his puja. And then, by his great misfortune, he stumbles across a Shudra and a Shudrani embracing each other. And when he sees that dirty sight, he's kama karma bijas that start to get germinated in his mind and his heart, and he starts to become agitated. And due to this agitation, he's not able to run away. And he's not able to get rid of all these dirty thoughts in his mind. So instead of running away, he's watering these thoughts over and over again, and he starts to become vicious and venomous, because that's what poison does. So much so that he drives away his parents, his good wife, his kids away from home, and brings this prostitute back to his home. And so many other unfortunate things happen in succession. Ultimately, what happens is Ajamil, towards the end of his life, he's about to leave his body, and the Yamadutas, or the servants of the god of death, they come to take his soul. And because of his great affection towards his youngest son Narayana, he chants Narayana. Just once he chants it, and he's saved by the Vishnu Dutas who come later on to save his soul. Eventually, he realizes that he should take to bhakti, and he goes to Haridwar for 12 years and practices bhakti there, and then eventually goes back to Godhead. Now, regarding this pastime, Srila Prabhupada says, after reading this, you don't have to go through these dirty situations that Ajamil had to go through. You just read it, understand it, and you've come to the right conclusion. From this platform, you can go to Haridwar and become a devotee. You can go to the last point of this pastime and perfect your life. You don't have to go through all the trouble that Ajamil went through. You don't have to degrade yourself and bring a prostitute to your home and whatnot. You can just learn from this pastime, and from there, you can perfect your life and go back home, back to Godhead. Simply because he chanted the holy name, he was saved. So like this, the conclusion of this pastime is that we should all chant the holy name of Krishna. So like this, so many pastimes of Bhagavatam, they're there on a very materialistic or a very external level or a very gross platform. It may seem like, oh, this is just another mundane sex story. But no, this pastime is what gives us the faith, the shraddha to chant the holy name. It gives us the faith that the holy name, there's nothing but the holy name. Service will come and go, but the holy name will always stay there. Everything will come and go in this life, but the holy name will always stay there, which is why we take holy name so seriously in our movement. And Narayana and Lord Narayan or Krishna or Vishnu, whatever you want to call him, is so kind that even if you call him just once, even if you don't think of him, even if you think of your son who you've named after Lord Narayan, still Narayan is so pleased that he sends his messengers, the Vishnu Dutas or the Narayan Dutas, to save your soul from degradation. They all have beautiful bright faces with beautiful ornaments like blue sapphires and bodies that are like dark clouds. And they come, like they came and delivered a Jamil, they come save you from the noose of Yamaraj called the Yamapasha. And this way, as we keep reading these pastimes in the Srimad Bhagavatam, eventually our hearts will come to the conclusion that yes, I think I should become a devotee of Krishna. So like this, Prabhupada again says in one of the past purports of the 6th canto, the best way to circumvent all the nasty situations of the world is not to go through them and get kicks and learns. Rather, study Bhagavatam and avoid having to go through them and directly come to the right conclusion. Prabhupada talks about the 4 different kinds of intelligence. The first one is where you just hear once and you learn. Second one is you hear, but you have to experience it once and then you learn a lesson. And then there's people who hear, who experience it and still don't learn. And I think there's a 4th one, but I can't remember. But if you simply take to the pastimes of Srimad Bhagavatam, just by hearing, if you're intelligent enough, if we sincerely take to the Bhagavatam, we don't have to get kicks and lessons. We can simply learn from what the pastimes are saying. And like that, we'll transcend all the nescience of this material world. So like this, when we read the Srimad Bhagavatam, some of these pastimes appear to be titillating to the mind. Some may be fascinating, and sometimes some may be alluring. But you will see that each of these people in the Srimad Bhagavatam, they're all there to teach us different kinds of lessons, like I've mentioned previously. Another example is King Pururava. Pururava was an earthly king who became very attracted, severely attracted to a heavenly apsara or society girl named Urvashi, who was extremely beautiful. And the result was what? He married her, he enjoyed her for a while, and then she left. This is what the 9th canto describes. And they had a very nice life for a few years, but then she left at the end. And in the 11th canto, this pastime is again revisited. It's called the Ayala Gita, where the sufferings of King Pururava, because of his severe, unnecessary attachment towards Urvashi, is described and how he suffers from it. Because material enjoyment in this world, it doesn't go on permanently. It always has a temporary, it has an end and it's temporary. And Krishna describes this in the Bhagavad Gita as dukkhalayam-ashashvatam. It's simply a place of suffering and it's temporary. And even if someone thinks of enjoying the material world for a short time, he may enjoy it, but then it's guaranteed that it will be followed by miseries. Prabhupada says, pleasure here today, gone tomorrow. Here today, gone tomorrow. It's not going to stay for a long time. The only thing that will stay is devotional service. In this life, in a million lives, and for all time to come, for eternity, devotional service will stay. That's the only thing that will stay with us. So all the pastimes of Bhagavatam, they encourage us, they're trying to drive us, our mind, our intelligence, our ego, to take towards devotional service and take shelter of the Bhagavatam, which is not different from Krishna. And when we take this shelter of the Bhagavatam or Krishna, then eventually we become so fixed in the service that we become good devotees. We become fixed up devotees. And all these materialistic pleasures, although they may appear very alluring, they will not stay in our hearts. They also will go away. So Pururava, he had to face so many great challenges in his life. Urvashi, after enjoying materialistic life with him for a few years, she vanished, she went away, and he became mad. He was running here, he was running there, he was going to the upper planetary systems, lower planetary systems, looking for her, but he couldn't find her. He even started praying to Lord Vishnu. He said, "Oh, dear Vishnu, please help me find her." And Vishnu came down, because he fulfills all desires. He came down and he asked her, "What do you want?" Asked him, "What do you want?" He said, "Please give me back my Urvashi. You're great, but please give me back Urvashi. I can't live without her." And Vishnu was like, "Are you that attached to her that you can't live without her?" And Apurva was just like, "Yes, I can't live without her. Please give her back to me soon." Vishnu was like, "Okay, sure. She'll come back very soon, but you shall perish after that." And then he left. Vishnu left. And then a few days later, Pururava saw Urvashi sitting with 3 or 4 men in the heavenly planets, and he was shocked. He was like, "I gave my heart to this woman, and she's sitting here with these 3, 4 men with these other handsome guys. I can't believe it. She didn't enjoy time with me." And when he confronted Urvashi, Urvashi said, "Well, I told you, I gave you certain conditions. You didn't listen. I said this, that, and that, and you didn't listen to any of that. So I left." And then he kept begging her, kept pleading to her, and then she said, "Okay, fine. I'll come to you once a year, but only for 1 day. And then I will leave, and you cannot follow me around." And this is when the Ayala Gita was spoken, because he was telling him, "Why are you so attached to me? What is the matter with you?" And then eventually Purava understood that the frustration a man experiences from this false attachment to a woman on a material platform. And she even preached to him. She told him, "Give up your attachment." So like this, each and every pastime of the Bhagavatam is meant to give us that attachment, to increase that attachment just a little bit more than we already have. And people, devotees who sincerely study the Bhagavatam, they'll eventually get to that understanding from the Pururava Urvashi episode, from the Jamil episode, from Purva Chitti and Agnidhara episode, all these pastimes, they bring you to the concluding point that Srimad Bhagavatam, or shelter of Krishna, is the ultimate shelter. There's another pastime with King Yayati and his wife Devayani. I'm sure you guys know of this pastime where there was this Brahmani girl named Devayani, and this Kshatriya girl named Sharmishtha. They were both friends. They grew up, they studied together, they have the same guru, and all these things. Devayani was a daughter of Shukracharya, the guru of all the demons, of the asuras. And Sarmishta was just her friend. And they were just playing in the lake one day, taking a bath. And when they came out, Sharmishta, the Kshatriya girl, she accidentally put on the clothes of Devayani, who's a Brahmana girl of a higher caste. In the Vedic periods, someone from the lower caste were not allowed to touch or wear clothes from the upper caste. So Devayani got very offended, and she said, "You're just like a dog who steals the clarified butter from a sacrifice." And because Sharmishta was a Kshatriya woman, they're prone to get angry very fast. Although in this case she was innocent, her anger was always there, because that's the dominant nature of the Kshatriyas. And she simply picked up Devyani and put her in the well, a dry well, not even a wet well. She was at the very bottom of the well, just sitting there and crying. And by Providence's arrangement, King Yayati happened to pass by right at that point, at that moment, and he heard the wailing of this woman, and he looked everywhere, and he eventually found out that she's crying from the well. And as he tried to help her out, Devyani said, "Oh king, because you've touched me, now you have to accept me as your wife." And Yati was like, "Oh, okay, I just came to help this poor woman, and now I'm being dragged into married life." But it also worked out that he was also attracted to her. He also fell in love with her. So by Providence's arrangement, everything worked out well, and they got married. Then they enjoyed sex life for 1,000 years. 1,000 years they enjoyed. And the result at the end was what? Just like the other pastimes, regret. And he was upset. Yati was upset. It says in the ninth canto, there's a verse that says, "Evam varsha sahasrani manaha shashted manaha sukham vidadhano pinatriptyat sarva bhauma kadindriyehi." The translation is basically, even though King Yati was the king of the entire world, not just the earth, all three planetary systems, his mind and the five senses that were trying to enjoy the material possessions for 1,000 years, although they enjoyed for 1,000 years, still they were unsatisfied. He was completely unsatisfied, although he enjoyed for 1,000 years. Evam varsha sahasrani. 1,000 years they enjoyed, Devayani and Yayati. And this is what Yayati is telling her. We enjoy for 1,000 years. Mana shashter, mana sukham. It's all a mental concoction. We can never truly get happy by this material enjoyment. It's like a chewing gum. Radhashyam Prabhu describes this as a chewing gum, material life as a chewing gum. We chew, chew, chew. In the beginning, it's all great. It's very soft. It's juicy. But then the more we chew, 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 then that's it. There's nothing left. It becomes a dry piece of whatever. And then a lot of athletes, soccer players, cricketers, baseball players, whatever, they're always chewing something, but there's nothing there. And that's just like this material enjoyment that the Bhagavatam describes over and over again. The beginning, it's great. All the pleasures are great. But in the end, it's poison. The Bhagavad Gita also corroborates this. So in the beginning, material life, sex life may seem great, but whether it's illicit or licit, like Prabhupada says, it's going to give you suffering no matter what. So one might be thinking, oh, we're going to get married, nightingales are going to be singing, cuckoos are going to be cooing, flowers are going to fall from the heaven, and she's so beautiful, I'm so handsome, we're going to earn this earth, we're going to have this big business, we're going to fly here, fly there, travel here, do this, do that. But that's not the goal. If you think in that mode, we're not going to achieve the highest goal of life, the paradharma, which is to take to Krishna consciousness. We'll simply remain as cats and dogs and just enjoy a materialistic life, most likely by having sex. And one of the byproducts of sex life is you have to work to support that sex life. And that's how you'll degrade yourself, you'll degrade your family, and all these things. So in this material world, in general, Prabhupada has described over and over again, there's two kinds of people who are on the pravritti marga and people who are on the nivritti marga. The ones on the pravritti marga are the instant sense gratifiers. They seek sense gratification instantly. For example, one goes on social media, swipe, 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 swipe. They're looking for constant sense gratification. One post is not enough. I recently heard a few days ago that the average time that a person spends on one post is less than 2 seconds. And the average time is what Hare Pran was saying in the thing. 17 seconds. Sorry, 17 seconds on one post. That is if the post is engaging. If not, people just swipe. And on average, people spend 8 hours and 44 minutes per day on their phone doing various kinds of whatever and whatever. So like this, people who are on the nivritti marg, on the other hand, they seek for Krishna's sense gratification, not their sense gratification. They always see what the ultimate benefit of each and every action will be. They observe. They pull themselves back. They become an observer of what's happening, and then they react. They don't immediately react to all the impetus of the senses. They wait it out, and then they think, they contemplate, is it going to help me? Is it going to be beneficial for my spiritual life? And then they take part into it. And like this, Devayani and Yayati, they both enter into the family life with the wrong propensity, with the wrong mentality. And the mentality was to enjoy the world. That's why he kept saying, Manah shashter manah sukham vidadhanopi natripyat. Natripyat means not satisfied. No matter what we did, my senses and your senses, they're still not satisfied. Vidadhano api natripyat, can never be satisfied. And that's what he was telling her. And who am I? Sarva bhauma kadindriyehi. He's saying, Sarva bhauma, I'm the king of this entire world, not just the earth, the entire planetary system, all three of them. Still, kadindriya, my senses are impure and they're still unpurified. And in Bhagavatam, there's two words that are used, sadindriya and kadindriya. Sadindriya means senses that are transcendental or that are working towards the goal of transcendence. And kadindriya means impure senses. Like this example that Prabhupada gives over and over again of putting iron rod in fire. Eventually the iron rod becomes fiery, it becomes red hot, white hot, yellow hot, like that it changes color, but it's hot. To the point where if you pick it up with tongs and you put it to a piece of paper, the paper burns. And that's what the quality of the iron rod. It's not like the iron rod is just behaving like an iron rod at that point. It's behaving like fire. It takes on the propensities, the qualities of the fire, because it's been put into the fire. So in the same way, Krishna is that fire. And the more we engage in his service, the more we try to love him, the more we try to reciprocate with him, we will become just like him. Not that we'll become God, we'll become like him in quality. We'll become transcendental eventually. We'll become spiritualized. Our senses will become spiritualized. And we'll elevate it to that fiery transcendental platform that is described in various scriptures by such wonderful verses and descriptions by acharyas and other devotees. So the jivas who are wandering in this universe from one planetary system to the other, from one bodily form to another, if they can take to the Srimad Bhagavatam or devotional service at one point in that journey of the Ferris wheel going up and down, then this addiction to material enjoyment, this life, will come to an end. They won't be allured like Yayati and Devayani were attached to each other. They won't get attracted in the wrong way. And once they get to that level, the devotee will be able to live like a lotus flower. Patram bhasa, like he describes in the Bhagavad Gita. Even if you put the water, a drop of water on the lotus flower, the water just falls away because it has like a layer of wax. It just puts the water away. And the lotus flower, even if it grows in the muddy water, the flower never touches that dirty water. It's always above it. And that's what devotees have to aspire for, to transcend this material level of enjoyment and get to the level of Krishna's enjoyment, where we can enjoy with him, whether it be in Vrindavan or whether it be in a purely materialistic city like New York, whether we be in Lower East Side, Manhattan, Bowery, wherever. It doesn't matter, because once a devotee gets to that level, he will be protected by Krishna, and he won't be affected by the contamination of this world. He'll become spiritualized like that fiery rod. And then his senses will become purified, because Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam Bhakti Uchyate. He'll be able to take part in that process of Rishikesha Sevana. And unfortunately, those who don't take to even a little bit of devotional service, even just hearing the mantra once, then their lives are just miserable. They'll keep enjoying their senses, then they'll realize it's not possible, they'll get frustrated, then they'll become atheists, and then again they'll degrade themselves to a lower form of life, and then the cycle will continue. Because that's just the truth of this world. The eyes, they want to see impure posters. The ears want to hear some rock music. The tongue wants to taste food that is not offered to God. So many kinds of things. In this manner, we're constantly suffering from situation to situation, life after life, being dragged to hellish conditions. And that's what's called kadindriya, impure senses. But if we stop chasing these material enjoyments, then we can eventually purify our senses and become sadindriya. The senses will become sadindriya. It's like a rat who lives there's a lot of rice fields in India, all the South Asian countries. And there's many examples not examples, but many situations where the rice field is raided by rats. They live in little holes under the ground, and then every now and then, when you beat the rice paddies, some grains fall on the ground, and the mice, they go eat the rice, because mice like rice. And the mice should be happy with that, right? It's enough rice for their fulfillment. They're like this big, or maybe this big. So all that rice should be enough. But they're not allured to that. What are they allured to? They're allured to a small cube of cheese put on a rat trap to catch them, or any other kind of rat trap there is. That's what they're attracted to. They're not attracted to the stuff that's given to them naturally, that comes from no effort. But the rats or the mice, they'll chase that piece of cube in a danger situation where their lives are in danger. Just for that fleeting sense gratification, they'll do it. Same way, fish. The fish live in the ocean, in the seas, in the rivers, where there's plenty of nourishment from all directions. All 10 directions, they can eat anything and everything. But what do they want? They want that piece of meat that's on the hook, put on by the fishermen, that their mouth gets stuck on. Then they find joy and enjoyment and allurement in that. And that's what they're running after. So like this, when we, as human beings, we're not satisfied with the basic necessities of human life, then we'll go chasing for things that we don't need. There's greed, and then there's need. So greedy things that we need, if we're not happy with that, then we become greedy and chase after things that we don't need. And that's literally the motto of material life. You aim for things that you can't afford, and you spend your whole life trying to earn those things. You get a wife, you get a child, you get a job, you all these things, and for what? You miss the ultimate purpose. It's like getting a car, but you leave the car in the garage, you take pictures of it every day, you offer arti to it, you do this whole ceremony, you worship the car, but you don't do the ultimate thing that the car is meant for, which is to drive you around. You don't drive the car, you just let it sit in the garage and you worship it every day. So in that sense, if you in that way, if you're not using this human body, which is just like a car, for worshiping Krishna, then it's just a waste. We can decorate this body with all the ornaments out there, but if the body is not being used for the service of Krishna, all those ornaments are of no use. And so is the body. It's of absolutely no use. The purpose of the body is to serve Krishna. The purpose of the tongue is to chant Krishna's names. The purpose of the eyes are to look at the deities. The purpose of our ears is to listen to Krishna Katha, like we're all doing. So if we keep listening to Krishna Katha, then our senses get purified. And if you don't take to Krishna Katha, then our senses become putrefied. So there's purification and putrefaction. Senses will become useless. They'll become blunt, decayed, if you don't engage them in Krishna's service. And on the other hand, if we can use the same senses, the eyes, the ears, the tongue, our mouth, our bellies, our legs, our hands, whatever, like Ambarish Maharaj did, then the senses will get purified and they'll be called sadindriya. Otherwise, they'll get putrefied and they'll be called kadindriya. So like this, it's not that we need to get to the spiritual world and then only we can become purified. No, we can become purified right here in Bowery, in Brooklyn, in Manhattan, in the most sinful place on earth. Doesn't matter. It is completely possible. Simply if we take shelter of the Bhagavatam. And that's what all these pastimes in the Bhagavatam are referring to. That's the whole point. Hiranyakashipu, he had everything thinkable in this world. He had complete reign over all three planetary systems. He had all sorts of material enjoyments. Still, the Bhagavatam describes in the 7th canto that because his mind was not controlled, he was unhappy. He was unsatisfied. And that's why he kept yearning for more and more and more. But that yearning for more and more and more, it never gives you anything. It just leaves you unsatisfied and wanting for more. It never gives you what you're looking for. You'll never get it. And that's just the sad problem of this world. And Prabhupada gives many examples of such people. He describes in one lecture, he says, the tongue is telling you, take me to that hotel 20 miles away. The person will take a bus, he'll take a taxi, he'll drive 20 miles just to eat that one thing that he loves. But that one thing, it's not prasadam, it's garbage. Still he wants it. And other things like in India, you will see people like there's constant catcalling to the point where the guy sees a girl, he follows the girl, girl gets on the bus, guy gets on the bus. Girl takes a seat, guy takes a seat. Girl stands up, guy stands up. And eventually he ends up getting slapped by the girl. And then he runs away. So it's just like that. We're following this false hope. And then we end up getting slapped left and right by Maya. Because that's our job, to reform us, to correct us. But we don't see it that way. We see that, how do I satisfy my senses? Ajitendriya, we become ajitendriya. Our senses, if they're not conquered, they're called ajitendriya, or we become a godas because of that. And if someone was able to control their senses, they become a jitendriya, one who has conquered his senses, and they're called a Goswami, which is what all the pastimes of this Bhagavatam are trying to bring us to. And this is exactly what Devahuti, mother of Kardama Muni, prays in the 3rd canto to Lord Vishnu, or to Kapila Dev actually, sorry, not Vishnu, to Kapila Dev. She says, so many things I tried chasing with my senses, but the end result is that in this world, no one can live permanently. Everyone in this world has to go, and I'm left unsatisfied. That's the essence of our prayers to Kapila Dev. So in this pastime of Shiva and Satī, we find so many contrasts between their personalities. We have Shiva, who is a total renunciant, and then we have Satī, who's a rejoicer in material life, in the material propensities, and Shiva is reluctant. He's like, Nah, I think I'm okay. Satī is Durga Devi. She is none different from Durga. She has everything that one could aspire for. And Shiva, being her husband, could easily have all of that. In one sense, in a very degraded way, can be said that Durga is like Durga is like Shiva's sugar mama. She can provide him whatever he needs. He doesn't have to do anything. But what does he say? No, no, I don't want any of this. What do you want? Oh, I just want to think of Vasudev. I just want to meditate on Vasudev. Okay, but what about a big house? No, I'm okay. I'll sit under a tree and I'll meditate on Vasudev. That's all I want. She's rejoicing in material enjoyment and trying to force her husband to enjoy in that, but he's reluctant to rejoice in that. He's a renunciant, so he renounces while she rejoices. And like this in the past time, we can see that she's captivated by all these heavenly planes flying in the air. She's seeing this denizen flying there, this Gandharva going there, this Apsara going here. All of them are going to the same place, but they're crisscrossing each other, and she's attracted by that. And Shiva is just sitting there chanting Vasudev's names. And Prabhupada says, this is woman's nature. And when he says this is a woman's nature, he's just talking about the psychophysical makeup of the woman. This is a general thing. It's not that every single woman is a materialistic person or every single woman is attached to material enjoyment. No. And it's not that every man is a renunciant. It's not that every single man that we see has taken to some form of meditation. No. In fact, we see that we have more women in this movement than we have men. And they take to Krishna consciousness much more easily than men do. They take it from the heart. We like to analyze, contemplate, philosophize, and then we don't even come to the conclusion that we should take to bhakti. We just remain spectators. So like that, and we also find in various situations where the woman is more renounced than the man. She's practicing bhakti, she's chanting 16 rounds, but the man is chanting maybe like half a round, 1 round, 2 rounds, or not chanting at all. And he's just working away, slogging his life to make money while she's at home, taking to some form of spirituality or religion or whatnot. So again, this is an example of the pravritti and nivritti mindset. The whole point of Bhagavatam is to take us away from the pravritti mindset and bring us back to this nivritti mindset. And even Satī, it's not that she's at fault for wanting to enjoy what's going on in the skies. It's her nature. It's just how she is. But that doesn't mean that she's bad, because that's just how women are created. They're known as three. They expand things. They want to like Prabhupada says, if you have women desire 6 things. They desire a very gentle husband who speaks to them very nicely. They desire nice houses and amenities and facilities to live in. They desire nice garments and fine dresses and ornaments here and there. They actually like to have nice vehicles. And she's looking at all these planes and children and babies. Women love that. And lastly, a sufficient bank balance just to support them. So if a man can provide a woman with all these things, I'm talking about general women, not talking about devotee women. This is just general, in general. If a man can provide a woman with all these things, then he's able to fulfill the desires of the woman. But they say that if your desires are greater than your assets, then you're considered poor. But if your desires are are lesser or lower than your assets, then you're considered rich. So like this, if someone's dating a woman who says that, oh, I need a $50 million bank balance at minimum, only then will I date you, and then you know that you're heading for a very poor and frustrated life. But on the other hand, if a devotee woman tells you, why don't we save all this money and give some of it to Krishna and donate to various projects all around the world for charity and whatnot, then you know that you're going to have a very progressive and very successful married life. And that's the whole point of married life in Krishna consciousness. It's to simplify. It's not that the Grihastha ashram is not to expand unnecessarily. It's to enjoy to a certain extent, but at a simplified level. Because we all know that desires, they're like mosquitoes. The more you give in to them, the more you have of them, the more they multiply. I'm sure you've seen in India mosquitoes in the gutters, filthy gutters. If there's some water there, you'll find mosquitoes there, especially in the rainy seasons. And they just multiply at a very, very fast rate. Just like this, our desires, they're like mosquitoes. The more you have of them, the more they'll multiply and exponentially grow. Unless we take to devotional service. And that's what the last verse of Srimad Bhagavatam says. Nama sankirtanam yasya sarva papa pranashanam pranamo dukkha shamamas tan namami haring param. The congregational chanting of the holy names will destroy all sinful reactions, and one will end up offering obeisances to the Lord. So this namashruti, or this chanting, or this attraction towards the holy name, will purify us. It will make our hearts nirmal, and that's supposed to be the normal condition of our heart. Nirmal is normal, but unfortunately, due to various contaminations, our hearts are anirmal, abnormal, full of malice and whatnot. So we always have a choice. We always have a choice. A choice is either we take to material life or we take to spiritual life. We can resist at all times. We don't have to give in. And that's what the purpose of all these pastimes in the Srimad Bhagavatam are, to get us to that point of resisting, to resist the temptations of the material allurements. And all these pastimes, they Vidantaste yabadrani vidunoti surit satam. These pastimes, what they do to the heart is that they destroy all the impurities in the heart, and they give two things. One, they give attraction for hearing the name, and the second one is they give you the attraction for hearing the fame of the Lord. Name and fame. So the name is the Maha Mantra, it gives you attraction for chanting, and fame is Bhagavatam pastimes. It gives you more attraction to listen to the pastime. So like this, if we just take to the Bhagavatam, then all the desires in our material life will go down, and then we'll take to spiritual life, and our desires will be spiritualized, aka purified, and then we'll have sadindriyas, purified senses. And just to reiterate the fact that it is not wrong for a woman to ask for all these things, like Satī is going to ask in the next few verses, we'll see. Satī is going to ask Shiva, oh, can we go to this sacrifice? And Shiva he won't say no, he will give her all the reasons. And then he'll say, kind of like Krishna tells Arjuna, yatechasi tathakuru. I've said all the reasons, now it's up to you to decide what you want to do. But it's not that, and Prabhupada explains this, it's not wrong for a woman to want to decorate herself with ornaments, nice dresses, and accompany her husband or a man to social functions, meet friends and relatives, and enjoy life in that way. That's just how they're created. And this propensity is not unusual. It's very much normal. And it's the basic principle of enjoyment and the basis of this expansion, the words three, because that's what the three is meant to do. It's meant to expand your material life. But once you take to devotional service, to Krishna consciousness, then you're not on that platform anymore. You're not just a woman who's trying to enjoy because of a psychophysical nature, wants to enjoy the world. No, then you're on the platform of a soul. And there's this pastime where devotees, Prabhupada disciples asked him, one of your male disciples or two of your male disciples are criticizing us, saying that, oh, women are less intelligent. And Prabhupada tells them, yes, women are less intelligent. Yes. And they're left confused, like, okay, that's not nice. But then he says, you're not a woman, you're not a man, you're not a cow, you're not a cat, you're not a dog, you're not a Hindu, you're a Muslim or a Christian. Who are you? You're a spirit soul. That's when they understood what he was talking about. Once you get to the spiritual platform, then all this man, woman, cow, dog, buffalo, whatever, it all goes away. You're a spirit soul. Then all of that propensities of enjoying material life, then you're not three anymore. You're just an atma, you're a soul. And then you start to see how you can simplify life rather than expand it. Then the woman helps you in your progressive life in the grihastha ashram. So whether you're man or woman, Krishna's name and Krishna's fame through the holy name and the Srimad Bhagavatam can purify you, bring you to the platform of Krishna consciousness, and simplify your life by reducing the desires. So that's what these pastimes are for. And that's what we chant every day. Divya Gana Vidya Prakashito. We chant every day. Prema Bhakti Jaha Hoite, Avidya Vinasha Jate. Like we sing in Guru Puja every day. Taking shelter of the spiritual master, of Srila Prabhupada, of Krishna, of Radha Govinda, whoever your deities are. If you take shelter of them, then you'll enjoy the boundless bliss that bhakti has to offer. And all the spiritual activities that you do to become enlivening. Even if it's the smallest or most insignificant thing you think it may be, it will give you bliss. And that's what the upcoming month is for. Gita Jayanti is coming up, or Christmas Marathon, whatever you want to call it. It's called by different names in different parts of the world. And that's what we should make full utilization of distributing that bliss to others. We shouldn't just keep it to ourselves. We should go out and give it to other people in whatever way we can, whether it's through Harinam, through preaching programs, through Sankirtan, through your job, through your friends and family, whatever. The more we take part in that, the more bliss we'll receive, and the more bliss we'll be able to give to others. And on that note, I'd like to conclude today's Bhagavatam lecture. Hope whatever I said made sense. I know I spoke very fast because I had a lot to cover. So pardon me for that. Somehow it always ends up that I have too much to say in a short time. And yeah, but I hope whatever I said made sense and helped you understand the essence of these verses, of these pastimes in Bhagavatam, what the purpose is, and not that we should become disturbed by them just because they're talking about sex life and whatnot, or describing women or scenes of war and this and that. It's just to purify our senses and make them sadendriya, not kadendriya. Purify, not putrefy. Hare Krishna. Any comments, questions? No? Okay. Granthra Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Samveta Bhakta-vrinda ki, Srila Prabhupada ki,
Prabhavishnu Dāsa ki.
and someone in the live stream ki.